Hey YouTube, this is me, Lucari Master here, and I'm going to do a report on the Heart Gold and Soul Silver set. So I'm going to look at some cards that I think have potential, and I think you may want to start getting at pre-releases or trading for very early, before they start getting expensive. The first card that I liked when looking at the Heart Gold and Soul Silver set was Donphan Prime. A lot of people think it has potential, so let's take a look at it. First of all, Donphan Prime has 120 HP for stage 1, which is fairly good. Times 2 weakness to water, which isn't that bad. 20 resistance to lightning, which is good. 4 retreat cost, which is very bad, but doesn't really matter. The good things about it, though, are its exoskeleton body and earthquake attack. First of all, its body, exoskeleton, which affects any damage done to Donphan is reduced by 20 after weakness and resistance, is very good. So that means that you need to do 140 damage to knock out a Donphan, or 160 damage if it has an expert belt. This makes Donphan a very good tank Pokemon, and a very quick one to set up, being a stage 1. It also has a good attack, Earthquake, which does 1 fighting for 60 damage, and 10 damage to each your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is fairly good, because on the first or second turn, if you got the setup, you can do Earthquake for 60 or 80 with an expert belt, which most likely will knock out whatever your opponent has, and then the 10 damage to your bench Pokemon won't really add up till later on. Donphan has a second attack called Heavy Impact, which does 3 fighting for 90 damage, or 110 if you have an expert belt, but not thinking that's going to be the main focus of the deck. It's going to be getting Donphan out T2, and then using Earthquake for 60 or 80 damage, and then just knocking out all your opponent's Pokemon before they can knock you out or they can get set up. I think Donphan has a very high potential of being good in decks like Flygon, or maybe even good by itself with techs like Nidoqueen or Healers. Overall, I think it has a lot of potential, and it will be seen at Provincials. The next card we're going to look at is Feraligatr Prime, which a lot of people think is going to be fairly good because of its Rain Dance Pokepower. Let's look at the card overall. First of all, it is 140 HP for stage 2, which is a bit more than normal. It is times 2 grass weakness, which isn't that bad. It is 3 retreat cost, which isn't that good. But it has an attack Hydro Crunch, which for 4 water energies, to 60 plus 10 for each damage on your opponent's Pokemon. It's not the best attack, but that's not the focus. The main focus is going to be on the Rain Dance Pokepower. Rain Dance lets you attach as many water energies you want to your water Pokemon per turn. So that means that you can get a fully powered Pokemon up in 1 turn, which may take 3 turns to normally power up. Now, the only problem with this is you need to get everything set up to do it. So that means that you need to get a bunch of stage 2s up, most likely, the Feraligatr, another stage 2 line for your main attacker, and then your supporter setup. So even after you get that set up fairly quickly, supposedly, because of the fast format, you need to have the energy to use it, which is fairly hard because having 3 energy in your hand isn't that likely. Even if you have all the energy and the Pokemon out, you may not be able to use the power anyway. You may get Psychic Locked by a Gardevoir, or Psychic Binded by a Mesprit, or Blaziken FB could come along and give your Feraligatr a special condition. So now you have to get everything set up and watch out for those. And even if you do get everything set up, you have to hope you can get it set up fairly quickly in this format that is becoming fairly quick too with the DREs out. So I'm saying that this deck, or this card in general, won't be able to perform very well. The last card that I'm going to look at, which is Typhlosion Prime, is a card that's been underhyped because I don't think many people find potential in it, but I think there is, so let's look at the card. It has 140 HP for a stage 2, which is fairly decent, times 2 water weakness, which isn't the best but isn't the worst, and 2 retreat cost, which is okay. It has an afterburn power, which lets you search your discard pile for fire energy, attach it to one of your fire Pokemon, and then do 10 damage to that Pokemon. Now I think that this is a fairly good power because this lets you attach fire energy to your fire Pokemon back, which usually burn energy because their attacks usually make you discard them. Now this is also good in decks like Blaziken or Charizard, which you can use the attack over and over again, which does a fairly high amount of damage, but has the back kick to discarding the fire energies. Now doing the 1 damage isn't that bad because you can just use things like Nidoqueen to heal them back. I think that this overall is going to be a very good power to use in fire decks. It does have a Flare Destroy attack, which is 3 for 70, discards 1 energy from each of the Pokemon. This isn't the best attack, but in a last-ditch effort, this is a very good attack, and it may be game-changing. Overall, I think this card has potential in fire decks if they ever get played. I'm going to start looking at some trainers. So, first of all, the first trainer I'm going to look at is Pokemon Collector, which is practically a Hoen's mentor, except newer. It's a supporter, and it lets you search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon. Pretty simple. It's practically Roseanne's Research, except for more Pokemon and no energy. This is fairly good in decks that would need to get a lot of things set up, and even better in this new format where Call and DC are going to be more played, so less basic energy will be needed in decks, so it's fairly good in that way. It's also good because you can combo with Roseanne's, maybe playing 2 Roseannes and 2 of these. It'll also be very good in the next format when Roseanne's is out there, and this will be the only way to search out basic Pokemon very well. I also think that overall this is a good supporter card, and you should at least play 1 or 2 of these in most decks, especially SPs. The next card that I'm going to look at, which is Pokemon Communicator, is a card that I think is fairly decent. It's a trainer card that lets you put 1 Pokemon from your hand into your deck, and then search your deck for a Pokemon. This is fairly decent in decks that play a lot of Pokemon, and your hand's usually cluttering with Pokemon you don't need. In decks that play maybe 19 or less Pokemon, you may want to play 0 or 1, but in decks that play 20 or more Pokemon, you want to play 1 or 2 with them. I think this will be fairly decent in a lot of decks, because it's a trainer card that'll speed up your deck, so you can maybe play Pokemon Communicator and BBs to get 2 Pokemon out fairly easy. It'll also be a good combo with Collector, because then you'll be able to use Collector, then maybe use Communicator, Rare Candy, or Broken Time Space to get the Pokemon you need. I think that this will be very good and should be a staple in most decks. The last trainer card that I'm going to talk about is Pokemon Reversal. It's a very good trainer card, and I believe that it can do very well in most decks. It's like a Gustom Mode except flippier. It lets you flip a coin, and if heads, you switch your opponent's active Pokemon to their bench. This allows for many times where you can use your main attacker to bring up their main Pokemon or their attacking Pokemon like Claydol, Nidoqueen, or Pokemon they're trying to set up on the bench. And you can knock it out before they can get set up, and this can give you a huge advantage early game. And it will also help late game if you need to get something knocked out really quickly to take the last prize, or to take the prize on time. I think that overall this card will have a huge potential in a lot of decks, and try to fit it in if you can at most decks, because I think it's worth it. Double Colors Energy is a huge addition to the Heart Gold Soul Silver set, because it's like an upper energy, except it always counts as 2 Colors Energy no matter what. I find that this will be able to be good in many decks like Flygon, Plox, Garchomp C variants, and many, many more. Any deck that attacks require 2 or more Colors Energy, it will be able to abuse. I feel that it just makes a lot of Stage 2 decks that were usually slow a lot faster, and be able to compete with the faster decks like SP, or these Donphan decks, or variants. I feel that overall it's going to be one of the most popular cards in the set. Even though it's an uncommon, everybody's going to be trying to get it, and it's going to be harder to find. Here's some other Pokemon that I think have potential. First of all, Jumpluff. Jumpluff does 120 for 1 damage, so that is just crazy. I mean, it has low HP, but it's still going to be good. Second of all, Ninetales. Ninetales, the only thing it uses for is the power. Discards a fire energy, draw 3 cards. It'll replace Claydol in fire decks, and I think it's overall better. Next is Cleffa. Cleffa is only good for its first attack, Eek, which practically lets you shuffle your hand in your deck and draw 6 cards. It could be better in Shadow in different ways, or it could be worse. Depends how you like to play, or your style of playing. Next, Sunflora. It's mainly for the power. It lets you search for a grass Pokemon every turn, which can give you huge consistency in grass decks. And last is Mantine, which practically lets you just get a water Pokemon as an attack, which could also be good in a lot of water decks, especially like for Alligator. This concludes my report on the Heart Gold and Soul Silver set. Now remember, there were a lot of good cards from Heart Gold and Soul Silver that came out, and I couldn't put them all in this video, so there's still a lot of good combos that you guys should think of, and that could be used for potentials.